Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking an incredible journey into the mind of one of history's most brilliant and honestly most enigmatic figures. We're going to distill Nikola Tesla's complex legacy, and we're moving way beyond his famous coils and alternating current motors. We're actually looking at a literal mathematical equation he drafted to save humanity. His grand 1900 framework for advancing civilization itself, titled The Problem of Increasing Human Energy. It's an absolutely mind-blowing blueprint, so let's get right into it. Our senses enable us to perceive only a minute portion of the outside world. Tesla wasn't just an engineer, He was a profound philosophical thinker. He really believed our basic human senses barely scratched the surface of reality. He had this visionary mindset, a truly unique ability to see the invisible forces of nature, like alternating currents and wireless waves, and he understood exactly how they could be harnessed to completely transform the human experience. Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to hit 6 key areas. First, the mind of Tesla. Second, the human energy problem. Then, increasing human mass. Fourth, reducing retarding forces. Fifth, accelerating human progress. And finally, the wireless future. Let's jump right in. Section 1, the mind of Tesla, how the inventors saw the world. So to truly grasp his blueprint, we first have to understand the uniquely fascinating way Tesla's brain actually functioned. The guy possessed an unbelievable ability for mental simulation. When he got an idea, he didn't run straight to the workshop. He built the whole thing entirely in his imagination. He would change the construction, make improvements, and operate the device completely in his mind. He even claimed he could tell if a turbine was mechanically out of balance without ever touching a piece of metal. I mean, no rough drafts or prototypes for Tesla. For him, carrying out a crude physical idea in the shop was just a total waste of energy, money, and time. Basically, if it worked in his head, it worked in reality. I was but an automaton devoid of free will, in thought and action, and merely responsive to the forces of the environment. Now, it's fascinating how this intense mental visualization led to his mechanistic theory of life. After observing his own psychological responses to illness and outside stimuli, Tesla came to this really startling conclusion. He believed he was essentially an automaton. He viewed humans as complex machines, interconnected masses constantly being urged on by the forces of their environment. We might think we have total free will, but Tesla argued we're actually highly sensitive mechanisms just responding to the conditions around us. Section 2, the human energy problem, a mechanistic theory of life. Because Tesla viewed humanity as this collective mass being moved by environmental forces, he realized he could apply the strict laws of physics to human progress. He actually formulated a literal mathematical equation for increasing human energy. Think of humanity as a giant train. To get that train moving faster and more efficiently, you can do 3 things. First, increase the mass of the train in a positive way. Second, reduce the friction, or retarding forces, slowing the train down. And third, increase the engine's motive power, which is the accelerating force. This 3-part formula really became the mental anchor for the rest of his life's work. Section 3, increasing human mass, the first step. Let's look a little closer at the first variable in his equation. But be careful here, because Tesla didn't just mean adding more people to the population. He was deeply concerned with the quality of that mass. Imagine a train of 100 locomotives. If you add 4 more locomotives running at the exact same speed, you increase the energy by 4%. But if you add 4 locomotives running at twice the speed, the energy increases exponentially. In Tesla's framework, educating the next generation, maintaining hygiene, and cultivating a balanced mind and body adds what he called mass of higher velocity. Adding uninformed or unhealthy individuals barely helps the train, but adding highly educated, healthy minds, that adds exponential energy to human civilization. Section 4, reducing retarding forces, the second step. Moving to the second step of his formula, we've got to look at what slows humanity down. Because even if you add great mass, it doesn't really matter if the brakes are on, right? Tesla had this brilliant way of categorizing human conflicts and obstacles into 2 camps. On one side, you have frictional forces, things like ignorance and stupidity. These are totally directionless and just cause unavoidable, useless friction. On the other side, you have negative forces, like fanaticism or destructive ambition. Now, a negative force is definitely dangerous, but because it actually has a specific direction, Tesla believed it could potentially be redirected and turned to good advantage. Ignorance, though, that's just a dead weight. So the goal is to eradicate ignorance through science and redirect those negative forces through better systems.
But Tesla knew the greatest negative force of all was human warfare. And his solution to this wasn't politics, it was engineering. He invented a brand new field he called telematics, which he defined as the art of controlling the movements and operations of distant automatons. He posed a pretty radical question to the world. Could machines fight our wars for us? Tesla genuinely believed that as long as men met in battle, there would be bloodshed, and bloodshed would just keep up barbarous passions. His answer? Completely remove the human soldier from the equation. To prove this, in 1898, he patented and demonstrated a remote-controlled, crewless boat. It was powered by internal machinery and controlled entirely by wireless electrical oscillations, which is exactly what we now call radio waves. The public literally thought it was magic, but Tesla saw it as the very first step toward machines that could act with what seemed like their own judgment. And here's the truly incredible paradox of his logic. He firmly believed that if both sides used infinitely destructive unmanned machines, war would eventually become a mere bloodless spectacle, a contest of machines where absolutely no human lives were lost. Creating the ultimate weapon was, in his mind, the path to ultimate peace. Section 5. Accelerating Human Progress. The third step. To increase the force accelerating human movement means to turn to the uses of man more of the sun's energy. With the mass increased and the friction of war removed, we finally arrive at the last and most important step of his formula, adding accelerating force to humanity through work and energy. Tesla stated that all motive power on Earth, from the winds to the ocean tides to the coal in the ground, ultimately comes from a single source, the sun. He believed the highest calling of science was to harness this energy efficiently, but he was highly critical of burning materials like coal to get it. He saw that as a temporary and super wasteful step. The true goal was to tap into the ambient medium itself to extract energy without consuming precious material resources. Section 6. The Wireless Future. Tesla's Ultimate Solution. All of this philosophical physics, the human mass, the automatons, the sun's energy, it all gave birth to his most ambitious physical inventions. Just look at how rapidly his timeline progressed. In 1891, he created the Tesla coil, generating high-frequency sparks. By 1893, he was already lecturing on the concept of wireless telegraphy. By 1898, he had built his wireless remote-controlled boat. And by 1900, he had taken all these concepts and scaled them up to a planetary level with his vision for a world system. He had figured out that the Earth itself was a massive conductor of electricity. And we really have to pause and marvel at the staggering scope of this world system. Powered by his magnifying transmitter, Tesla promised a facility that would transmit power through the Earth without wires. But it wasn't just power. In 1900, long before computers existed, he outlined a system for instantaneous global communication, a secured government telegraph service, universal marine navigation so ships could steer without compasses, and even a system of world printing where images and text could be reproduced anywhere on land or sea. It is absolutely mind-blowing. He was practically describing the modern internet, GPS, and wireless communication over a century ago. Connecting the world in this way was his ultimate method to achieve human unification and harmony. Which leaves us with a really profound question to ponder today. Has Tesla's vision of an automated, wirelessly connected world finally been realized? When we look at our modern internet, GPS navigation, wireless communications, and drone technologies, it's hard not to feel like we're living inside the exact blueprint he drafted over a century ago. We are the human mass he hoped to accelerate. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the forces that move our world.